Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Daily Stack Report, where we bring you daily up-to-date information about these volatile markets as we saw today. Right now, spot gold is at $53.50 and silver is at $89.08. Now we're going to head over to the futures and see what happened today. But first, if you want to win this beautiful 1996 American Silver Eagle, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, but most importantly, hit the notification button, because whenever we hit 100 subscribers, you're going to have to comment on the video to win this. That's how the random comment picker works. I don't make the rules. I just play by them. Okay? That's just how it is. Back to the video. Here we go. This is why you do not buy the hype. This is why you do not always follow and trade off of the news. If you would listen to the hype, you would have think that silver would be at $500 by now, right? $100, $120, just because we dropped a couple, you know what, in you know where. Okay, I'm not going to say the words, but just because there's a little global uncertainty going on, it's not really uncertain. There was a plan for it, and I think a lot of what we saw last week was the hype going into it, but now that it happened, we saw this big drop, and I don't believe that the markets had the same amount of hype that us consumers, us regular people, thought it would have. We kind of went up a little bit at the open of the market. We did touch $96, $96.39 over here. Yeah, that was going to be the high, was at $96.39 mark right there. Yeah, that was the highest that we got, which, again, that is a high. That is something to be proud of, something that, it definitely is an accomplishment, being that we were just at, a lot lower of a level. We were down here in the low 70s. I believe, let me see, did we hit 60? No, we never hit 60. Oh, yeah, we did hit 60 that one time, but we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that one time we hit 64 because we bounced right back. But we kind of rejected any of these trend lines up here, and we fell below it. Right now, we are not necessarily trending up. Now, the last thing that we would want is for another head and shoulders to form. Right, we have the first shoulder here. This could definitely be considered a head. And so if we do have a bounce up here and get rejected along this $92 mark, we could be going straight down here, kind of where it started, over here to 82. And then if we have to test that $78 mark again, I don't think we'll test 78. Now, will we come down to 82? I could definitely see that. But I do think we're going to kind of ride this trend line down a little bit, and we're either going to bounce up off of it, or we're going to go down to the mid 80s. That's kind of my next day or two forecast that I'm currently seeing in the silver market. Again, I'm not necessarily buying all the hype. Was I hoping that silver would go to 100 based off of the news? I kind of was, of course. But was I being realistic about it? You always hear that saying, it's like, buy the hype, sell the news. Buy the hype, sell the news, right? You buy the hype, and then you sell when the news comes out. But unfortunately, we got slammed down on this 4-hour candle with a 5.5% loss. That's $5.24. We had a high of 95.26 on that candle and a low of 88.23. As you can see, it's going to move. Let me see if I can mark it. Nope. It's going to move, but over here, the O means open, H means high, L means low, and C means close. And that's just on the candle. So whenever I move off of it, it's going to go on the current candle. But what you can do is go to each one of these candles, and it'll give you those specific numbers right there. So guys, I am going to keep watching some of this, stuff that's going on. I'm not going to necessarily say the words, but I do want to see some of the things that are going on overseas. See if the Strait of Hormuz, gets open. It's not necessarily closed, but at the moment, everyone's just kind of like, I'm not going to be the one that takes the risk. I'm not going to be the first one that goes through there and, gets blown up or something. So that's kind of the predicament that everyone's in. It's kind of like, who's going to cross that line first, just to test the waters. And no one also wants their ships to be blown up. It's just that plain and simple. So it's going to be interesting to see who kind of does that, how that plays along, because although it's not silver and gold related, it is oil related, and it is also gold and silver are safe haven assets. And so whenever things get too crazy, people do tend to go more towards their safe havens versus their riskier stocks, their riskier futures. So could be a sign. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how we bounce off of this little crosshair right here that we have set at 86.92, and that should be on Wednesday. Today is Monday, so I'm predicting around, Wednesday around, probably, let's see, Wednesday probably 1 a.m. So, maybe Wednesday morning, tomorrow night, something around there. I think it's going to be a telltale sign whether we're going to keep going down more or we're going to get a nice bounce and come back up. So definitely keep that in mind whenever you're trading or whenever you're going to buy. I don't think right now, I'm not a financial advisor, so take my opinion for what it's worth. But I don't think right now in this moment is the perfect time to buy. 90% silver is on heavy discount, so pretty much everybody has that below spot. Again, that's one of those assets that you're telling yourself, hey, I am holding on to this for the long term. I'm not buying this to sell it in a couple months, because I don't see that predicament, the whole 90% silver predicament, going away anytime soon. People are just not paying for it, and people are just not really buying it. It's kind of a two-way street right there. So definitely be safe whenever you're investing, but 90% definitely is the most discounted silver right now that you can buy. I do buy a little bit of it here and there. If I had to say, I probably buy an ounce of 90% to every 10 ounces of pure that I buy. It's just a nice thing to have. I do barter with it sometimes, here and there. I ask people, or, if I'm doing one of my sales or a trade, I throw it in there just in case. Sometimes I run into a situation where their total, might not be an even number. And so I'm like, hey, I got this dime, I got this quarter, I have this half. If we can just round it up to the nearest, 50 or 100, I'll give you this dime, quarter, half. So I do keep it. They are good for bartering. That is mainly what I use it for. And I also do like to stack it. I'm not talking about graded stuff. I am talking strictly about the coals and things that aren't necessarily valuable in the sense of numismatics. But yeah, guys, keep that in mind. Let's go over to our Silver Eagles. APMEX currently has them for nearly $20. That's going to be a $17 premium. SD bullion. Oh no, I got off of it. Stay with me. 3, 2, 1. Still have it. Now they just have it for $5 off per coin. They don't have that beautiful $10 off your order anymore. So that 101 is still a $12 premium right there over spot, but that $5 is baked into that price, so keep that in mind. It's not going to be 96, it is 101. And JM has them for 105.62 with their spot at 89.63, so that's going to be about a $16 premium. So APMEX currently is the most expensive. SD has a nice little deal on a random year, and JM is going to be second most expensive at the moment. So everybody, definitely keep an eye out for some overseas conflicts. Things do tend to happen on Fridays and the weekends, so that's typically when we're going to see the most action when it comes to that. But you never know. You just simply never know. But guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Stay safe out there, stack smart, and as always, I will see you tomorrow.